Hello everyone, welcome to video 28. This video has been entitled Exploratory Action Research. So to begin with, what if your classroom could become your research laboratory? Imagine this, you are teaching English, you notice that your students keep making the same mistake all over again. You try a new strategy, and instead of simply asking whether it worked, you investigate what is happening in your own classroom. That is where exploratory action research comes in. So the problem here is we teachers and your teachers, if your students face problems every day. Students don't participate, they struggle with pronunciation, they avoid speaking English, students avoid speaking English in class, they don't understand feedback, they memorize grammar but cannot use it communicatively. And often teachers are expected to solve these problems without having enough time, resources, or research support. Sometimes you need to demonstrate that students are making progress, but you don't know how to do it. Grades or marks are just not enough. So traditional research can feel distant from the classroom sometimes. Academia seems far away from the classroom reality. But what if the teacher could investigate the problem while teaching? Well, this is where exploratory action research comes in. This is all about exploratory action research. So the rationale behind exploratory action research is quite simple. Teachers don't have to choose between teaching and researching. They can investigate their own practice while continuing to teach. The goal is not necessarily to produce a huge statistical study, like an empirical study or quasi-experimental study. The goal is to understand a classroom problem, try something new, observe what happens, reflect on the evidence, and use that knowledge to improve practice. In other words, research becomes part of your teaching. So, what is exploratory action research? Exploratory action research combines two important, relevant, paramount ideas: exploration, understanding a problem before rushing to a solution, and action research, taking action, collecting evidence, reflecting, and improving practice. The key word here is exploratory. Instead of saying, I know what the problem is and I already know the solution, the teacher asks, what is really happening here? What is causing this problem and how can I sort it out? So a classroom example, imagine an English teacher notices, my students don't speak English during group activities. The first reaction might be they are not motivated. But but is that really the problem? The teacher begins exploring. Maybe students don't know how to interact in English. Maybe they are afraid of making mistakes while they are working within a group. Maybe the task is too difficult. Maybe they simply don't have the language needed to participate. So the teacher collects evidence, classroom observations, student reflections, recordings, questionnaires, or even interviews. Now, the teacher has something much more valuable than an assumption: evidence. Then comes the action. Based on that evidence, the teacher introduces an intervention. For example, students receive useful interactional expressions such as, what do you think? I agree with you. Could you explain that? In my opinion, let's come to an agreement. Let's make a decision. Let's decide together. Then the teacher observes what happens. Do students participate more now? Do they use English more frequently? Do they interact differently? The teacher collects evidence. And then comes the most important part, reflection. What changed? What didn't change? Why? And what should I modify next in the next stage? This is the exploratory action research cycle. Firstly, exploration, remember. Second, act. Then observe. Then you reflect. Then you revise, and then you explore again. A cycle of continuous professional learning. Exploratory action research is not a straight line. It is a cycle of continuous professional learning. Remember, the key idea behind exploratory action research is that you, watching this video, an EFL teacher, can become a researcher by collecting data from your own classroom setting. Why is this research? because the teacher is not saying, I think this activity worked. The teacher is asking a researchable question and collecting evidence to understand the situation. For example, how does explicit instruction in interactional language affect students' participation in English group work? Now we have a problem, we have a question, we have an action, we collect evidence, so we have evidence now, and finally we can reflect on the intervention. That is research. Why does this matter in EFL language teaching or ELT? For English language teaching, exploratory action research can be particularly valuable because many classroom problems are context dependent. What works in one classroom may not work in another. A strategy developed, for example, in the USA or maybe in the UK or Australia may produce different results in a Chilean classroom. So instead of asking only, what does the literature say, we can also ask, why does the evidence from my classroom tell me? This doesn't mean ignoring previous research. Quite the opposite. It means connecting research knowledge with local classroom knowledge. The big idea behind exploratory action research is that the fact that it changes the role of the teacher. The teacher is not only a consumer of research, the teacher becomes an investigator, a reflective practitioner, and a producer of knowledge. And perhaps most importantly, the classroom stops being simply the place where research is implemented. The classroom becomes a place where knowledge or new knowledge is generated. Probably one of the main limitations of exploratory action research is the fact that you cannot generalize the results in all the classroom settings and in all the school context, but it can improve your own practice. Now, food for research. Here is a question for researchers and, of course, English teachers and pre-service English teachers. What is one common problem in your classroom that you have accepted as normal? Students not speaking, pronunciation problems, low participation, limited vocabulary, fear of making mistakes. Instead of simply accepting it, explore it, collect evidence, try an action, reflect, and investigate again. Because sometimes the most important research question has to do with exploring your own research and planning a good intervention that can improve students' results. So don't just teach your classroom, investigate it. This is exploratory action research. And maybe your next research project doesn't need to start in a lab. You can start tomorrow morning with your students. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this video and I'll see you in video 29. These are the main references I have consulted in order to plan this video for you. And remember that if you've liked this video, I invite you to subscribe and join the upcoming live session soon. See you. Bye.